This is one of the first of many alumni touch points and interactions that the Directorate of External Relations is working very closely with all the departments at GITAM University across all our 3 campuses. And this one particularly features 3 of our alumni from the EECE department, the Electrical, Electronics and Communications Engineering department at GITAM University, part of the School of Technology. And my thanks to the HODs across the 3 campuses, particularly Professor J.B. Seventhline at Visakhapatnam, Professor Madhavi T. and from the Hyderabad campus, and Professor Mohan Kumar from the Bangalore campus for facilitating this. My thanks to all the student coordinators as well, and the DoER team for putting this together. And particularly my thanks to the alumni who have joined us for this session, and to Dr. Ravikanth from the GCGC, the GITAM Career Guidance Center, which is a new strategic initiative focused on facilitating career opportunities for GITAM students, not just in placements, but we are talking about a broader career across various streams. We are saying placements in corporates, higher studies in India, higher studies abroad. Maybe you want to pursue competitive exams like the UPSC Civil Services. Maybe you want to look at entrepreneurship as a serious option. There are a lot of very exciting new initiatives that are happening at GITAM. And, the GCGC is part of that strategic race that GITAM is now in. We have a publicly stated vision that we want to be a global top 100 university in the next 20 years. That's a very aggressive goal that we are aspiring and working hard towards. I'm sure I can see the alumni's chests filling with pride. That's a big claim and it's a big task, and we're all part of it. They're here to help us in this journey. We're serious about it, and it's amazing to be a part of this ecosystem. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists today. We have with us Dr. Ravikanth, who is the Deputy Director for Career Counseling and Mentoring. He also kind of spearheads the other career opportunities that I was just talking about. A pleasure to have you. Welcome to this webinar, Dr. Ravikanth.
My pleasure, Arka.
Great. We also have with us Srikar. Srikar is from the class of 2015. He is an alumni of the EECE department. I know that this is a clubbing together of 2 departments, the electrical and the electronics and communications engineering. It's a larger department now. Maybe when when you are talking about your journey, you can give us a specific idea of what course or what specific department you were, how things were there. Maybe we'll touch on that. But gives me great pleasure to welcome Srikar, who did his undergrad from GITAM, then went on to do his MS in the US from the University of Cincinnati, and currently is working with Qualcomm. So welcome back to GITAM, Srikar. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Also on the panel today evening is Chaitanya Boddeti, also an alumnus of GITAM from the 2016 batch, Chaitanya. Did I get that right? And then went on to do his MS in the US from SUNY, the State University of New York, the University at Buffalo. I think that's the largest university system in the US, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is.
It has 64 universities, does the public university system of New York, and I think that's the largest one, maybe larger than, is it the California system, which is the second largest?
Sure. Yes, CSU would be the second largest.
And within that, I suspect University of Buffalo is the largest university within the New York public university system as well.
Yes, SUNY Buffalo.
So it's a pleasure to have you here, Chaitanya. Chaitanya you're an innovation engineer at Intellaster, solutions.
No, I'm an IoT solutions engineer at Intellaster. Yeah.
Awesome. So so welcome back to GITAM again, Chaitanya. Pleasure to have you on the panel.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity.
And our 4th panelist for today is Ajita Kandula. She is also did her undergrad from GITAM, from the Hyderabad campus. Is it, Ajita?
Yes.
And Srikar and Chaitanya, are you both from the Visakhapatnam campus?
Yes.
I'm from campus, actually.
Sorry, Srikar?
I'm from Hyderabad campus.
Srikar is from the Hyderabad. Chaitanya, you're from the Visakhapatnam campus.
Yes, I'm from Visakhapatnam.
Ajita, you're also from the Hyderabad campus.
Yes.
So we have a mix of alumni from the two campuses. Bangalore not represented, but I know that they're represented in the audience. So maybe on another occasion we can call a few from Bangalore campus as well to represent. But back to Ajita, you did your undergrad here at GITAM, and you are now currently pursuing your MS at the Johns Hopkins University. So that's our panel for today. Welcome you all, and welcome back to GITAM, Ajita, to you too.
Thank you.
Welcome to all our attendees. We're quickly climbing up 16 and growing. So it's a good quorum, and I hope all the attendees gain a lot from the conversation that we're having. I know that, considering an MS abroad, particularly in the US, is a big decision. It involves a lot of thinking, planning, and a lot of hard work to get there. We have with us 3 of your alumni from your department who've made the successful transformation and the transition from their undergrad years here to an MS in the US. And I hope, this is a conversation that adds a lot of value. So let me kick it off. I think I'd like to begin by inviting first, Dr. Ravikanth, let me begin with you. We were just talking about, some of the new strategic initiatives at GITAM that are aimed at helping our students in their efforts to apply to universities abroad. I know that GCGC has a lot of very interesting and aggressive plans, some of which you are heading. Could you please share some light on what's happening and, some thoughts on how students should go about making the most of this?
Sure. Thank you very much, Arka, for giving me this opportunity to interact with the alumni as well as the juniors who are actually looking at alumni as role models. And when it comes to GCGC, you have mentioned the scope, Arka. GITAM Career Guidance Center is a strategic initiative by GITAM University. And, in fact, in GCGC, one of the aspects that I'm responsible for is OCO, it is called as Other Career Options. And in Other Career Options, I'm responsible to facilitate across all the 3 campuses, higher studies abroad, higher studies India, UPS Civil Services, career in armed forces, or if any student is interested in, contemplating on family business or entrepreneurship, still we can route them to the right place in GITAM University itself. And when it comes to higher education abroad, GCGC is trying to establish a very good, rapport, or I can say memorandum of understanding with premium institutions in India. Recently, we had a tie-up with Zambori Education. So the MOU helps the students across all the 3 campuses to pursue higher studies, test preparation, GRE, IELTS, TOEFL, GMAT. So there are no issues at all across all the 3 campuses. Students can register for study abroad test preparation. The advantage is that students will get an affordable fees. They can pay an affordable fees. If they are going alone, probably it is a commercial market outside. There is a lot of exploitation. So GITAM ensure that the fees is actually dropped to an extent where students will not feel the pressure of paying more money to the training institutions. So one important step that we have made is having MOUs with the best training institutions for study abroad preparation. There are many more MOUs in pipeline for GATE, for CAT, as well as for institutions like IDP is also coming forward to GITAM University to establish an MOU. So all these things are happening in GITAM University. I request all students across all the 3 campuses to take the advantage of these kind of support facilities that university is offering. And whatnot, this session is going to definitely open the eyes of students when it comes to some important considerations before a student really looks or aspires to enter into the prestigious universities abroad. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Ravikanth. So, let me just set the context quickly before I bring in our alumni panelists. We're waiting to hear from them. But look, when we're talking about, doing your MS in the US, possibly students are immediately thinking about, okay, it's about getting a good GRE TOEFL score. There is this animal called an SOP that I have to create. There are some things called LORs that are very important. And then which universities do I apply to? Which has a, I mean, which do I have a chance at getting into? Should I apply to 10 universities or should I apply to just 6? Should it be the top universities? Should it be a mix of, top universities, ones where I expect to get in and some safeties? It's a very complicated thing, and still all the things that I've talked about is still very general. Then you get into the personal side of it, where who am I and how do I fit into this very complicated game that I'm trying to step in. It's like an outsider trying to figure out a game of chess by not even looking at the game, by being told by someone um, that maybe the first move is this, the 15th move is this, the 45th move is this, and then that's all you've heard. You've heard one story here anecdotally. Oh, someone got a max score in GRE, made it to so and so university, or someone got a low score, still made it here. This is the kind of anecdotal evidence on the basis of which we are trying to attack what is essentially a very, very complicated procedure. And I think this needs a lot more research, a lot more in-depth understanding. And I think this is a good stage for me to bring in our alumni panelists. So what I would request all our alumni panelists to do is, briefly walk us through their journeys from their days here at GITAM, to some of the highlights of, their journey here. What made them decide to pursue their masters in the US? Or maybe they had that goal when they came in, or maybe they had it a few months before they started the application procedure. I don't know what triggered it. Or they, and what were some of the challenges they faced? How did they manage to, successfully make the transition to pursuing an MS in the US? And yeah, let me just, bring our panelists in. So let me begin by asking Srikar to, briefly let us know how his journey was. Srikar, over to you.
Thank you, Arka, for inviting me. And yeah, it's a great pleasure to share my thoughts and my journey to my juniors, my alumni, and my friends, so that they can learn a bit, and even I can share what I wanted to share to them, so that they need not make the same mistakes which I made. So yeah, coming to my journey, I did ECE with VLSI stream. I did a course called Integrated Dual Degree, where it's bachelor's plus master's, like B.Tech plus M.Tech, in Hyderabad campus. So in my master's, I've taken a VLSI, like in GITAM, and when I've been applying for universities, it is clear for me to apply to VLSI, because that's what I've been doing here. But going through the process, I have never thought of going to US to pursue any higher education. I was just thinking to get my master's here in India and like work in India. After I did my bachelor's and master's here, I was applying for a few companies, and I was giving interviews for VLSI companies. And there I recognized that there was a lot of knowledge gap between what we were taught in the college and what the industry actually needs. That happens everywhere. So that knowledge gap is what gave me an idea to completely fill that gap with another master's degree, or a degree which would help me to get a better job, or to get a job which I require, which I dream. So during that process, I was looking for a few universities in US where which would actually help me to get into good jobs. So the point of going to university, or point of applying to any university or going to masters is, yes, we would get a world-class education, we would get exposure to a lot of things, but in the end goal, we would still require a job, right? So keeping that in mind, I started applying to universities. So my method of applying to universities was basically, I was checking how the alumni of that university got into jobs, and I was checking through their LinkedIn profiles, and I was going through their journeys, so that I would know what skills I would require to basically get a job. So seeing that, I've zeroed out on like 6 universities which are good at VLSI, and which are actually competitive enough in the job market. So among all of them, I can list like the 6 universities. The first one was the University of Cincinnati, which obviously I joined. The second one was University of Texas, Dallas. So all the universities which I'm telling, these are actually good in EC, like electronics and communication, and especially VLSI, because that's what I was looking for. So, so like I have these 6 universities, like University of Cincinnati, University of Texas, Dallas, University of California, Riverside, Carnegie Mellon, North Carolina State University, and also University of California, Merseyside. So I applied to these 6 universities, and I've gotten to 5 of those. But yeah, even after getting the admits, there is a second procedure of selecting that correct university among the admits which you have got. So the first thing I considered was what is the fees I have to pay, or what is the quality of the education, because all the 6 are the same quality of education. So the second point doesn't make any sense. The first point is what kind of fees I have to pay, and do I get any scholarships or teaching assistantships? With University of Cincinnati, I was getting like a 40% tuition fee waiver with a scholarship. So, and the university had the alumni from GITAM going to University of Cincinnati and getting jobs. So I have our alumni too there. So they actually helped me to actually sort out my application process. So University of Cincinnati was a no-brainer for me. So I joined University of Cincinnati, did my master's in VLSI design, which is like chip design semiconductors. So then I went on to do internship in AMD during the same 2-year course. I did my internship at AMD. Then I did my full time at Synopsys for a couple of years. Then I joined Qualcomm in March 2020. So that has been briefly my journey. But here the major point was like I have been selecting the universities based on the jobs which the alumni have been getting, and the exposure for which the students are getting in terms of projects, in terms of industrial experience, and in terms of internships. And the third one was obviously the fees and the scholarships which I was getting. So these 3 were the major key points for me to actually zero in the universities. And once you zero in the university, like what I did was I tailor made my SOPs and LORs for each different universities, because each university has a separate character to it. Like the professors are different, the projects are different, the labs are different. So I would go through all the university lab pages, all the university professor web pages, and the department web pages, and actually go to the projects, and I would see what the students are there are doing there. And based on that, I tailored my SOPs and LORs, and that actually helped me to secure like few universities which I was targeting, and also the scholarship. So yeah, I hope this is good enough.
Brilliant. I think that's an amazing opener. I think that sets a context that gives a lot of important takeaways. I hope all the attendees are listening with their ears peeled. A lot of truths spoken there. But the big truths, I'll probably just reface it and share it before I move on to Chaitanya and hearing his journey. I think the big ones is, do a lot of research. You need to know where you're applying, with some thought and some effort and some research done into, how are the alumni communities, what are the jobs they're working into? And I think that's an important one. But the big one is a probably more universal takeaway from what Srikar just said is, look, if you're applying to 6 universities, you better have 6 different LORs, SOPs, and ways of presenting yourself. This holds true not only when you're applying to universities, but even when you're giving a job interview with different companies, even when you're looking at opportunities, no matter what they are. If you have a standard resume and you're shooting it to 20 companies and attending 20 interviews with a same set of answers to what you think are expected questions, that the chances of success are lower than if you're actually doing your research and customizing it to those 20 things. Likewise, the same thing holds true for applying to universities. And I think and then, of course, my reaction, Srikar, is given the space that you've chosen and where you're working, it's a large strategic area for India where, we have a big gap. I think in the chip manufacturing arena, we are very weak, but in the chip design arena, I think, Indians are everywhere very strong.
It's
And I think
strong.
in the global context, apart from America and China, and there's a very massive tech race going on there. That's like super exciting for if you're a technology follower and if you're from the electronics or in this space.
Yes.
That's a big one because, every day we are talking about AI, ML, computing power, cloud, whatever it is. And chips are at the basis and at the heart of our society today.
Yes.
Srikar, I think, it would be great if you come back and maybe have a tech talk with some of your juniors on that later. But that's a different context altogether.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. Maybe we'll touch on that a little later. But let me just now invite Chaitanya to come in and, share his journey. Yeah, Chaitanya, over to you.
Thank you, Arka sir. Thank you, GITAM, for providing this opportunity to give back to the university, which has helped me in every way during my career. So I graduated from GITAM University back in 2016 with a bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering degree from the Visakhapatnam campus, and directly went on to pursue my master's in electrical engineering fresh out of college at University at Buffalo, or Sunny Buffalo as it's called, with a major in Internet of Things. And even before I graduated, I was able to secure a job in Intellaster as an IoT solutions engineer, where I'm designing solutions for the customers for Fortune 200 companies for the past 4 years. So that has been my journey. So for anyone trying to decide right now between a master's degree and a career, so I was in the same situation where these guys were back in 2016, deciding between an MBA degree and a master's master's degree in the US. So I did get a job. Get a seat in the IIM Trichy for a MBA program. So the reason I had to choose master's in US over the MBA program was you can always get your MBA 10 years down the lane, 20 years down the lane. And I think a technical career along with an MBA degree would be a better choice than MBA degree straight after college without any experience. So that's the reason for me choosing MS in US over the MBA degree. And coming to the specialization, I chose signals, communication, and networking as my specialization in my master's, since I was more attracted towards the sensors, communications, sensor technology, which is why I framed my career around that, which is the Internet of Things, which is a booming industry right now. And yes, Srikar has almost touched up on most of the application part of it. I went through the same journey. And when it comes to the universities that I applied to, it's the same as what Srikar did. NCUSU was a part of it, North Carolina State University. University of Texas at Dallas was one of them. Because these universities were a common point for all the electrical engineering departments, whether it's solid state, power electronics, or communication and networking. And besides that, Sunny Buffalo, which was my first priority based on the strategic location of New York State, along with the program, the pure electrical program that's available in University at Buffalo. And it being a top 50 college, tier 1 college, it was the obvious choice. And I also got an admit from University of Maryland College Park, which was the top 15 college, but it had a management blend of the telecommunication department. And that's the reason I chose Sunny Buffalo as my destination. So yeah, that's
Awesome.
pretty much my journey, and looking forward
Awesome,
to your
Chaitanya.
question.
So it's great. I think we've cycled through 2 journeys where they made it to their top choices. And my takeaway from this one is that there are a lot of considerations other than just what the ranking is. For example, University at Maryland College Park, probably a higher ranked university, so to speak. But then there are reasons why you preferred Sunny, and that was your top choice, and you made it there. So maybe we'll come back to that. I think to all attendees, I think you can shoot your chats. We are starting to see them. We almost have close to 37 attendees already and growing. There are already 2 questions and great questions coming in. We'll answer them live. We'll get into the Q&A shortly. But let me first invite Ajita next to share how your journey transitioning from GITAM to John Hopkins happened, and then we'll continue with the flow. Ajita, over to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My journey was pretty similar to Chaitanya and Srikar's, I would say, but I did my undergrad at GITAM University, Hyderabad, and I was in electrical and electronics engineering department. It was pretty obvious to me from like a pretty uh, like right from childhood that I would tag along with my father to work to his work as a kid, and during summer vacation, and it was like taking a trip to Disneyland, except all the towering castles were like replaced with giant electrical transformers, and it was obvious to me that I wanted to pursue electrical engineering. And right after a program that would offer me sort of an amalgamation of both technical and management field. So that's when I did some research and looked up engineering management. And there's a cohort, there's a consortium, which is MEMPC, and they have top universities listed, about 8 or 9 of them. And Johns Hopkins was one of them, and it was my first choice. But of course, there were sort of apprehensions like, would I get into a university this big, or considering that often students always have this idea in mind, or this preconceived notion that, oh, if I have a low GRE score, if I have if I haven't scored that well in my academics, can I get into a university of that's top ranking? But yes, so, and then that's how I listed down the universities that I was interested in. This included Dartmouth, which is an Ivy League, Johns Hopkins, USC, University of Texas, and a couple of others. And when I got into Johns Hopkins, it was my top priority. So I decided to pursue my engineering management program there. And I'm currently in Baltimore right now. I've just finished my final exams, and my technical track is in operations research, which is a little different from what my fellow panelists are pursuing. So yeah, I think I can help the students out with, what if you want to pursue something that's different from what you're pursuing right now in your undergrad. So, yes.
Super. So that's amazing. And to all the attendees out there, I'm hearing something loud and clear. What it tells me is that there are a lot of GITAM alumni who've made it to the US universities, and we have a cross section of 3 of them, and all of them made it to their top choice. And I think that this is something that that matters. What it tells me is that there is a whole wealth of information available. I think you need to go a little bit deeper in it. I see a few questions that we will deep dive into, but this is precisely the kind of conversation that I was hoping sparks off. It's amazing to have all 3 of you back on this panel. I hope, Dr. Ravikanth, you agree. It's a pleasure that this conversation finally started off after so many of our discussions where we were trying to make this happen. It's absolutely a pleasure to see this happening finally. All right, so let's move on. I think let's get to the second part of it, where after your journeys and your individual transitions. I think we already have a few questions, but I want to first throw a few questions of the usual suspect variety. These are your common questions that anyone pursuing their masters is going to deal with, struggle with. So I'm going to, I have maybe 4 or 5 questions that I'll throw at the panel. So maybe I'll throw some of them to one of you, but towards the end, I have a few where I'd like to hear from all of you. And, let's play that Russian roulette across the panel. And then once we get to that, we'll open it up for Q&A. We'll take questions from the attendees. We already have a few great questions coming in. So let me open by asking, the most basic question possible, which is, how do you go about beginning the process of applying? I mean, where do you start? When do you start? Like, for example, Ajita made it clear that, her decision to pursue masters in the US happened fairly early when she was a young girl visiting her dad at work, and that was Disneyland for her. So, when do you begin? how do you begin? And this is, of course, three of you will have three different answers. But let me ask Chaitanya to throw some light on this first, and then we'll maybe come back to it later. Yeah.
Sure. For the question when, I think the second semester of the third year is when I started my journey towards the MS program to start my application process. And I had a certain gap between the application deadlines so that I can prepare my application process. So most of the application deadlines, so if you're planning for the fall of 2022, for most of the top tier universities, November of the previous year would be the deadline for the applications, for the early bird applications, which have a better chance, wouldn't say better chance, but a better chance for the scholarship applications, for consideration for the scholarships. So it's better if you start early. So 3-1, if you could start your GRE preparation, decide on the specialization and the universities. So coming to specializations, basically in electrical engineering, at least in University at Buffalo, we have 4 different departments. You could go with the signals, communication and networking. I mean, it's not just sunny Buffalo, it's even across all the universities in the United States. I think even my panelists would agree with that. So the first would be the signal communication networking. Second would be the optics and photonics. Third would be the solid state or VLSI, which Srikar Canchi has studied. And fourth one would be the energy systems. These are the major departments in any college. And you also have these specialized courses, which, for example, UBS started a new course called IoT, which is a specialization completely in IoT, where you're taught everything, right from data analytics. So it do brushes up on the computer science part of it and also the electrical part of it. So yeah, the first step is to choose the specialization that you would want to get your master's in, and following which, research the colleges which offer that specialization. And I think LinkedIn would be a really good source for this. The alumni, because when I started my journey, the alumni, GITAM alumni, which were present in sunny Buffalo and Texas and Dallas, so I reached out to like 100 alumni, I think, because we do have a strong foothold of alumni, GITAM alumni in the US. So, and each one of them were really courteous to answer all my questions. And that's where I started my journey from. I chose sunny the universities based on that. And yeah, so LinkedIn would be the best resource, and reach out to alumni with all your questions. That's the suggestion I would give all the juniors. And after that, the application process, how to apply. Each university does have an admissions department. You do have the emails. You could reach out to them directly with all your questions, and they do respond the quickest, like in 2 to 3 days. That's the usual turnaround time for most of the universities, if it's not the peak time. So that would be the second valuable resource. And there are always groups on Facebook where you can post out the forums, and Reddit, where you can post out your profile and look out for the comments or whatever the other experienced candidates are giving you. So that would be a good choice, a good place to get your recommendations for the universities once you decide on your specialization. And the third would be prepare a resume. That did help me really good when applying for the universities. The resume is an underrated thing in the application process, but I think tailoring it with your projects and sending it along with the application packet to the universities is a really good thing to do. So, yep.
Great. Some brilliant insights there, Chaitanya. And my takeaway, what I noticed is you said that it was in your second semester of the third year that you got really serious and started with your application process. In Ajita's case, it was much earlier. Srikar, quickly bringing you in, did I hear you say that you did your master's and then after you graduated you took a call on? Just wanted to know when your decision crystallized to seriously start applying.
Oh, yeah. So when I I did B.Tech plus M.Tech, so it was masters in GITAM. So after masters, I did like 1 year at Tech Mahindra. I worked like for 1 year at Tech Mahindra. During my work at Tech Mahindra, I actually understood that I don't want to work for a software company forever in my life, because that's not what I wanted to work for. So then I had a realization that I could still go and apply and get knowledge, and then pursue the career which I wanted. So I took like a year after graduating, and in that year, because I tried out the job, so I chose my master's there.
Great. So yeah, I think what I'm trying to highlight is that we have three different successful alumni here who took the call at different points, but still made it there. But to give you a general answer, the earlier you decide, the better your chances. And the best way to decide, I think, I'll take that completely from what Chaitanya's response is. Do your research. Do use LinkedIn very actively. Reach out to a lot of the alumni. They need not necessarily be GITAM alumni. Even others who are in these universities sometimes will respond. But if you reach out to GITAM alumni, the chances of them responding to you are like exponentially higher. They will, emotionally in every way they want to help you. So they will. And then once you've spoken to sufficient number of GITAM alumni, you'll find that you have the confidence to speak to maybe people who are not GITAM alumni from some of those universities where, you've spoken to a few GITAM alumni, but maybe you'll have the confidence to speak to 4 or 5 others from other colleges, and you'll get a much deeper insight into what makes a good application tick in those universities. So I'll quickly come to you, Srikar. Are grades super important? Do you need like an amazing CGPA to make it to the university of your choice? Is it essential to have published research? How important is the final year BE project? How important are internships? Um, the general zone where I'm going with this question, Srikar. Would you like to just share your insights on that?
Yeah, they are really important, because universities at US or the Western countries do actually put a lot of importance on the work which we have done during our masters. So that is really very important, being it papers, being it internships, being it project. So they look at your SOP and resume, and they would see what this particular candidate has done, so that we can give him admission to our universities, because each universities would like to keep their standards high, and would like to have their alumni, like the students graduating from that universities, to be of a really high standard. So that is why your research, or your internships, or your projects actually help. Coming to the projects, we do a major project in our final year. So the fourth year major project. Uh, what I would recommend to the students, or my juniors, is like, just don't try to copy whatever, or like is there from internet, or whatever the people like. There are a lot of institutes or coaching centers out there which will help you to do your project. What I would suggest is, do your project on your own. It could be a small one. You need not make a grand project or something like that, but still you would learn how to do the project from the scratch, and this will help to write your SOP, or to actually take the classes of your interest. Because while you do your project, then you would know that I'm interested in this area, I'm not interested in this area. So that helps you to actually figure out what your interests are, and that also helps you to build your resume, and that also definitely helps for your admissions. Because as I've already told, universities would like to keep their standards high, so they would want the best candidate to secure the admission, because there would be a lot of candidates applying to the university, a lot of candidates applying for the scholarships and etc. So the resume actually plays a key role. Along with resume, we have SOP, which is a really important document, which actually tells all about your journey, your passion. And if they like your journey, if they like your passion, and if they think, yes, this particular candidate is a suitable candidate for your university, then they would give you admission. So yes, it plays a important role. speaking on research papers, I did publish few research papers here in GitHub. They were 4 were in IEEE and one was in a journal. So these research papers I did in VLSI design and electronics. So they actually really helped me to get teaching assistantship and also scholarship. So
Srikar, if I may just quickly ask, the article or the research paper that you published in the journal, which journal, and was it under the guidance of some professor at GITAM, or was it under the guidance of a research scholar elsewhere? If you could just throw a quick, details on that.
I had 4 on IEEE conferences. One was in IJER, International Journal for Scientific Research, IJSR, sorry. So this was all done in GITAM. So I had definitely professors helping me out, GITAM professors from Hyderabad campus, Professor Dr. Trinad Rao and Professor Govind Prasad. These 2 professors were actually backbone for doing my research work at GITAM, and also the GITAM, the Department of EC itself, because for doing the projects, I would still need the licenses or the tools which to complete the project. So the Dean of GITAM University really helped me to get the licenses required to do my project. So with pride, I can say that GITAM will help you if you actually want to do something. They will definitely help you and make sure that you do the project successfully. So yeah, I had huge help from GITAM professors doing my research.
Super. There is a question from an anonymous attendee that fits right into the next question that I'm going to pose. She says, or she or he says, Ajita ma'am, how did you build your resume in order to make it to a top tier college? Any tips on making your resume stand out? And taking on from what Srikar just pointed out, how important, I think everyone's saying the same thing, the resume and the SOP is critical. So, how important is the SOP or the resume, Ajita? Let me bring you in on that one.
Sure, yes. I am going to piggyback on what my fellow panelists said, Chaitanya and Srikar, that how important resume and SOPs are. And it's a very, like a very delicate process that you have to get it right, because people usually just focus on the scores, like, oh, I've got this GRE score, I've got good academic GPA, and I've got IELTS and TOEFL score, but the overall profile is incredibly important, and SOP and resume are like very right up there. So in fact, after I got into the university, before I was actually selected, I had an interview with my department. So Johns Hopkins, the university actually interviewed me, and they didn't want to know much about what was on my resume, but more on like what defined me and what my passions were. And that's where the SOP really helped me, because I'm going to be honest, my GRE score wasn't exactly that good to like get into a university.
If you don't mind, Ajita, could you actually spell it out? What was your GRE score? I mean,
yeah,
that's a curiosity that
absolutely. So my GRE score was 310, and it was comparatively very low compared to like what others usually get, and I don't really test well. I'm under pressure, so I'm going to be honest about that. Yeah, my IELTS score was 8. That I guess helped a little.
By the way, to all the attendees, none of those are shabby at all. But yes, may not be the absolute top tier percentile scores we're talking about, and still, so yeah, so it's an element and not the be all and end all. I think, sorry to interrupt you there, Ajita. Yeah, please.
No, absolutely. Exactly. So, I mean, usually you're discouraged when you have a low GRE score that, oh, you're not going to get into a top tier university. You shouldn't even consider it. You should have safe universities as a backup. But that's not true. Let me, right here, example right in front of your eyes. It's very important to have your overall application, just you get the entire thing right. For me, SOP was where I could play to my strengths. Sure, I've got a low GRE score. Let me show them what else I've got. So, and like Chaitanya and Srikar earlier said, that you have to build your LinkedIn profile. And this is where it helped me. When I was looking up universities that I was really interested in, I reached out to my alumni from GITAM University. Who, I have a senior who was studying at Johns Hopkins. But then I also reached out to other students who I didn't have any common connections with. I just reached out to them. Here, I'm applying to this university, and I would really like to get an insight of how I can get it right. And let me be honest, people are very helpful when you reach out to them. And what's the worst that can happen? Someone will either ignore you or you won't get a response, and that's perfectly fine. The best part is you do get a lot of responses. Like, I would be willing to help out a lot of students if they're applying to Johns Hopkins University, and that's what happened. And a lot
So
of them
you heard it here. So you know who to reach out to on LinkedIn and or otherwise if you want to get into Johns Hopkins. And I'm sure even to Chaitanya and Srikar, they took the time out here. So you at least have now, for some of you, maybe some of you have already done what they're talking about and are serious and are building those linkages on LinkedIn. If not, do so. And if nothing, you're not starting at zero. You have at least 3 people that I would recommend, do reach out to, drop your queries, and they will be more than willing to help. Even I think it's like there's at Hogwarts, I remember that help will always be given to those at Hogwarts who ask for it. So do ask for help, and you'll find many times you do get that help. Yeah. So sorry to interrupt you, Ajit.
No, so Mr. Bhattacharya, that's a really nice quote from Harry Potter. And let me actually, that's what my SOP started out with. I had a reference to a Harry Potter, uh, like a story, art of storytelling. Let me stress upon that. The art of storytelling is very important when you are writing your statement of purpose, because it's not the same. People always have this notion that, oh, let me just elaborate upon my resume. Let me just take down the elements and, like, I did this, I have these extracurriculars, I did this. That's not how it works. SOP has to be a little different. It's yes, of course, you elaborate upon your extracurricular activities and what you did in your undergrad, but it's really important for you to get the art of storytelling right. And it's also very important that you do not plagiarize it, you do not get someone else to write it for you, because this is your story, this is unique. And the way I structured it was, I would have my opening paragraph where I would give an introduction of who I am, what inspires me, and then what I did in my undergrad. And like I talked about earlier, I started with a conversation that went on between me and my friend's grandfather. Usually people would start with a quote or something generic. Hi, I'm applying to this so and so university, and I would really like. So, but I knew that I wanted to really stand out. I knew that my GRE score wasn't up there. So I thought, let me play to my strengths, and let me structure this like a story. So that it would pique the curiosity to know how to get to know me. So that's how I structured it. I started out with a conversation between me and my friend's grandfather, and what led me to applying to this university. And the way I ended it was, what can you bring to the table, which is very important. This is not just you going to the university for your own interest, but also why the university should pick you. That's very important as well. Uh, and you want to make sure that why did you choose this particular university, and what do you value about that institution, and if it has an renowned engineering program, then why are you picking it, like what appeals to you, and what are your next steps from there. So that's how you end your statement of purpose as well. You have to discuss, you need to have a set goal, and you need to explain it to them in that manner, and you have to tailor your SOPs to a university. Like, you cannot have the same SOP for every university that you apply to. That's a major mistake that a lot of students make. That's not going to work out. When you have to tailor it according to the university. So, and talk about what really appeals to you. I would like to work with so and so professor, and yeah. And then, of course, the way you can also apply for teaching assistantships. I'm working as a teaching assistant right now. And as Chaitanya stressed upon that, financial aspect is something that is really important. That helps you out as well. So that's how I scored my teaching assistant job during my interview process at Johns Hopkins. So very important to get your SOP right.
Let me just, quickly, maybe a quick response from you, Ajita, and then I want to bring Chaitanya and Srikar in on this one is the LOR, that's another important aspect to it. Could you tell us, how building your resume and SOP, and how do you go about it? Who gave you your LORs? Would you do it differently? In that zone, maybe a quick response from you, and then I'd bring in Srikar and Chaitanya also to give their
Sure, yes.
thoughts on this.
Yeah. My resume and my LinkedIn profile are two very important connected elements. People always wait till they get to a university, especially during the masters, to really start working upon their LinkedIn profile. And that's not something that I would suggest or recommend. You have to start working on your LinkedIn profile right from your undergrad, and even sooner if you want to. This is where you'll make connections. So, and that's how you and your LinkedIn profile should be listed in your resume. It cannot go on for like 3-4 pages. It should be one page. That is something that I really picked up on when I came here to the United States. And as far as LORs are concerned, pick the professors who actually know you and you've worked with. So I worked with my power systems professor because I talked about it in my SOP, I talked about it in my resume, and then I also picked my manager at Amazon to really talk about me as an employee, about my work experience. So it's really important to pick the people who know you and not just a professor who has no idea that you were in his class, in his or her class. So, and of course, you do want to have them understand what it is that you're looking for in a university, and you have to explain it to them. This is what I want, and this is why I'm applying, and that's how they'll structure their letter of
And I think this is an underrated aspect of it. Usually, we fill out our applications and we reach out to someone saying, give us an LOR. But a deeper conversation with whomever you're reaching out to, saying, why are you asking them for the letter of recommendation?
Exactly.
Why are you applying to this university? What is it that you're saying in your SOP? Typically, a request to anyone for an LOR should be with all the details of your resume, SOP, and a chat. Guiding them through. Maybe you want to stress that here I'm really gunning for assistantship, maybe a RA or a TA. So can you put in a word that bolsters that part of it? That and they should, and the first thing that you should be able to explain to the person you're reaching out to for an LOR is why him or her, and that won't be possible unless there's a real reason to. If it's just somebody who's a name but doesn't know you, that may not be the best choice. That's how I would react to what you just said. Uh, um, who did you take your LORs from, Ajita? Maybe a few names, if you can just throw it out there, and then I'll take in Chaitanya and Srikar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the LOR that my during my Johns Hopkins University interview, the letter of recommendation that really stood out was from my head of department and also my professor who taught me, Dr. Ramakrishna. So he was the one who actually his LOR really stood out for me because I talked about how I'm really interested in the program. And I think that's an incredibly important point, that you do want your professor to know why you're applying to the university and how their LOR
Awesome.
could really bolster that.
Awesome. And I just want to put this out there. Look, for those of you who are listening and those who are keen to get into Johns Hopkins, don't make this connect that a LOR from Professor Ramakrishna is going to get you there. That is exactly the counter of the point that we just made. It can, it must. Then I would recommend that early in your stint, you try and get to a place where you actually work with him, take inputs from him, and get him to know you so that you can be in a position to ask him for an LOR later. It's not just about getting an LOR from him. It's about deserving and getting a meaningful LOR from the person you're asking to. Chaitanya, can I bring you in on this this one? I have just one question after this, then we'll open it up for Q&A, guys. Yeah, Chaitanya, please.
Sure. So SOP, LOR, and resume show the personal side of you. The other parts of the application are just certificates or papers that show the academic part of you. But when it comes to the SOP, the LORs, it's the personal side of you that needs to come front, and the academic or whatever the part of you that's already available in the other pages or on the other parts of the application that need to go back. So when it comes to the LOR, what Ajita said was true. You need to have a personal connect with the person that's giving you, because it's just not that letter that's sent out to them. They do get a link in response where they need to fill out how they had interacted with you, with the student, and why they think the student is fit to be at their university. And in that case, a personal connect with the professor would be phenomenal, and it would really help you in securing the RAs and TAs that you would assist you during your masters. And coming to so yeah, the professors that I had taken the recommendation from, Indira Dutt ma'am in the digital signal communication department, because she's got publications of 100 plus, and I had the best best course under her teaching. So that's the reason I chose her. And I took one from Karunakar sir in the ECE department. And along with that, one from the HOD, Maleshwara sir. Had a personal connect with him. I had interacted with him during the IEEE conferences and other events that happened in the ECE department. So that's what it's really important to have that personal connect with the person that gives you the LOR, and make sure it touches upon the personal side of you, and it make sure you do list all the projects, explain the projects rather than listing them out that I did so and so. Explain the project and why you chose to do that, and that would be phenomenal in an application.
Thanks, Chaitanya. Srikar, I think you already took a few names, but yeah, if you could please, your LORs and who did you go to, why, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. Yes. I've taken my LORs from the professors I have worked with, from the professors I've had my research with, and also I was taking the LORs from the senior most professors too, like the professors, as Chaitanya mentioned, having huge numbers of publications in the field I'm trying to get into, because the words which they say are really important, are impactful for the application process. And but they should also know you personally. They should know your work. They should know what you have done, because as Chaitanya said, they would get a link back and they would have to also add few more words to your profile. So I've taken it from head of the department, Professor Manjunathachari, and from Dr. Trinada Rao, and also Professor Govind Prasad. So I've worked with all these three professors during my research, and they all three of them had like I requested them to put a stress on teaching assistantship because I was looking for a teaching assistantship. So they had the teaching they requested the universities to give me teaching assistantship because they thought I deserved for some teaching assistantship. So that really helped me to get my TA in the first year itself, because it actually takes some time for university to give you teaching assistantships. But I joined University of Cincinnati in the August, and by September I had a TA. So I think the LORs really helped me to get those. And once you have TAs, you would have exposure and also some spare money to spend. So yes, they would really help.
Yeah, I have one question that I will go around in rapid fire mode after this, and then we'll open it up for questions. We're almost at time, but maybe we'll take 5-10 minutes to answer some of the important ones. I see a lot of questions. We'll try and cover some of the ones that we can. But before that, a quick reaction. I think, the other thing that I'm seeing, and this is an important thread, let me just put it out there. Many times, as an applicant, you're thinking, if I get an admission with aid, I'm going to take it up. Maybe, there would be some people who are taking that kind of a call. It's a nuanced application process. They will first look at you. Then, it goes through a vetting process where some of you will get early admit calls. The aid may happen a little bit later. There may be interviews to check if you deserve that aid. Everything is important. And some of the decisions may come through later. So, just keep this in mind. And again, the best people to reach out to would be people who've gone through the process, your alumni and others. They could tell you it varies. There are a lot of things. At the end of the day, there are several sequential stages. First, you need to have some idea where you're applying. Then you need to get good scores. Then you need to make sure that, you're doing everything that helps you build an impressive resume and SOP. Then you need to apply to the right universities. Then you need to get the admissions. Then you need to get your aid in place. And then you buy a ticket and you head there. This is the sequential flow. You can't think about, flying to the US until you have the admissions and aid in place. You can't think about aid until the admissions are in place. you shouldn't really be stressing about admissions until your packet and applications are good and ready to go. You can't get your application packet in place until you have everything that sets your resume, your SOP, and your scores are in order. And then to get to that stage, which is possibly the beginning of your application process, there's a lot of hard work that needs to be put in the year or couple of years or maybe many years leading up to that stage. So I'll just put that in context. And then my last question before I open it up is, can I just take a once round? I think Ajita, you've answered this already. Your GRE score is known, but can we have your GRE, TOEFL, IELTS scores and a quick check on, if that changed, would it change the universities you applied to? Let's start with maybe Srikar. What do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I got, like, I wrote GRE twice. So I got 308 once and 310 the second time. So it didn't really change much. So actually, the universities which I've applied, University of California, Riverside really has a high requirement of GRE, but still they gave me an admit because they really focus on your statement of purpose and your letter of recommendations. And after that, if they still have to if you still have tie with other candidates and they still have to pick one of them, then probably your GRE scores or your TOEFL or IELTS scores would matter. But to get a teaching assistantship, some universities which I have spoken to, like I have my friends in few other universities, they stress upon the speaking aspect of your GRE or your TOEFL or your IELTS exams. So the higher the speaking score you get, the better chances of you getting a TAs. So that is a important tip which I would give. Like if you're giving your IELTS or TOEFL scores, concentrate on all the sections and concentrate little more on speaking section, because that would also help you to get a TA position.
As someone who's been guiding a few students on these things, let me also say, one of the biggest problems that we all have as Indians, maybe, it'll, when you go back and look at this recording, you'll notice all of us speak much faster than we should. So speaking a little softer and enunciating it actually is not natural to us as Indians. We speak a lot faster than, and that will help, enunciating, slowing down your speech and, being a little easier. We have got a lot of things on our mind and we just want to get it out there. But that helps. And I think that's a very, very important tip, Srikar. Thanks for that. Chaitanya?
So yeah, my score was 318 with a perfect score in quantitative, 170 on 170. So that helped me secure an admission from the top tier universities like the Maryland College Park. That was the reason, I think so, when it comes to the admission. But even that couldn't help me to get an admission in North Carolina State University. So I did not get the admit even though I applied for it. So it's not always the GRE score or the TOEFL score that gets you to the application process. It's always the overall package.
Absolutely.
So the personal side of it, yeah. And my TOEFL score was 102. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Great. I think that's a great interjection point to open it for Q&As. But before that, I want to bring Dr. Ravikanth back in. Dr. Ravikanth, there are a lot of third-party agencies and consultants who help with the process. They add a lot of value, I'm sure. But at the same time, there are some pros and cons. And since you've been in this space and you've guided a lot of students, help them, de-risk their process of applying, and also you guided them to get to the best universities. Any thoughts, any inputs on the pros and cons of that aspect of it, if I can briefly take you?
Yeah, in fact, that's an important point where students have to really take some message from the alumni right now.
I'm so sorry, Dr. Ravikanth, just before you respond,
please.
I think Srikar was making a point that, when it comes to projects, don't rely on external agencies that will help you, deliver a project for you without you going through the grind. I think the same thing holds when, that's my thought here. But back to you, when I know that they add a lot of value. They can help add tremendous value at several stages of the application process, even right up to the point where, you've got the admission with aid. They may even help you with maybe visa and even the travel plans and even getting, good accommodation in the university. So they add a value at different stages, at various stages of the game. But don't let it happen where they are the black box and you're relying on their expertise and you don't have a clue of how it's going. But that's my input. Dr. Ravikanth,
Yeah.
please, if you could share some more.
Yes, sure. Thank you. In fact, there's a myth in the students community that when they have to really take a decision of going abroad, taking a suggestion from an alumni is a cumbersome activity where they still have a myth that students who are already pursuing or have pursued will not respond favorably to the juniors' requests. That myth is still there, but that myth is actually busted because of this particular session initiated by Arka sir. So here, my point or my concern for alumni to address is that most of the students are um, approaching the agencies to counsel them for selecting the best universities or selecting the best courses or specializations. And I feel that, yes, these study abroad agencies are there to guide the students, but by the end of the day, they are doing business. So that is actually there at the background. The numbers means a lot for them. And sometimes, by looking at the number game, so they may force some of the students to choose some universities which are commercially viable for them, instead of allowing the student to choose his course at a university that he is passionate about. So in those lines, or in that particular context, my request to all the panelists: what are the don'ts that the alumni, or don'ts that the juniors have to really look into when they are interacting with these agencies? I'm talking about don'ts. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may. So I actually did have help from a third party study abroad institute, but I was very clear that I do not want my SOP written by them. I do not want them to help me out with my any of these elements like resume or my eh, or the entire application process. I only wanted to know, how do I start my process? What do I need in terms of financial documents or stuff like that? In fact, the third party, the institute that I took help from, they didn't even, they actually discouraged me from applying to top tier universities the minute they were like, oh, because they have tie-ups with other universities that they want you to end up at. So I would really suggest that you just get to know the process from them. Okay, so I need this, I need that, but do not just, take complete help where they're writing your SOP, they're giving you a generic resume. That's not going to work. And they, in fact, discouraged me from applying to Johns Hopkins University. They were like, oh, you're not going to get into a top tier university. You should probably have some safe universities just as backup. And I was very particular about that. That's not going to work out for me. So just get to know the process from them, but do not let the third party meddle with your application. You need to believe in yourself. You need to get all of that right.
Yeah, broad takeaway and good rule for life. Don't cede control. Stay in control of the game you're playing. Know the game. Yeah, everyone needs help, but don't hand over agency completely to someone else. Yeah, Srikar, Chaitanya, any responses on this one?
Sure. Actually, I did not take any external agency help because, as Ajita told, they would discourage you to apply to some universities, and they have tie-ups with universities because they would get money as kickback for students going into that universities. This is pretty common. This is their business model. I have nothing against that. That's how the business works. But I don't want my resume or my profile or my career to be in their business model. So I applied to all the universities myself, but for the process, I contacted my seniors, like who have already done, and alumni of GITAM who are in US, because as Chaitanya told, we have a very strong foothold of GITAM students in US and in other countries too. So they would really help you. So I've contacted few of my seniors, and I've asked them how they have applied, and based on that, I have went through the process. So I did not take any external agencies' help. Uh, generally they don't they all what they have is they have a package, like if you go to them, they'll write your SOP, LOR and everything, and like a single button click, and by the end of that, they'll apply on your name. So even the passwords are created by them, everything, your profile and everything is created by them and managed by them. So sometimes I have heard stories that even when students get admits, they won't even tell to you that, yeah, you have gotten admits from this university, because yeah, they have either interest in other universities, or probably they are not interested to help you. So yeah, that's the reason why I don't want a third person to work on my profile, because I know what I am capable of and I know what I would need. But yeah, going for the process or the procedure, one thing which would help is just to contact your seniors through LinkedIn or Facebook or any other social media. And if that doesn't help, I think whatever GITAM is trying to do right now with these sessions should be really helpful for juniors to actually start the application process.
Chaitanya, anything to add? Anything else to add on this this one?
Sure. I mean, you can always draw the line between that. I mean, you can take the help from the counselors, but you should always draw the line between what they would be doing and what you should be doing. I know coming straight out of college, when I was in the seat, like when the juniors as are right now, we are skeptical of how this application processes, and it's good to take the help of a counselor at that point of time. But you should always draw the line. And as Srikar said, you should have the authority of the emails and the applications that you had placed with the universities, and not that they have the upper hand to decide on what you should do. So that's the takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just put it this way. There are some that are very good, but still, as you know, was pointed out by Dr. Ravikanth, at the end of the day, they are a business. And you know, they could walk you through a great, they could render stellar service to you, and you could get admits to two good universities, and they could subtly manipulate you into picking your second best choice because it may make better business sense for them. And that's the where you need to be very careful. And I think that's a good experience. The flip side is something like what Srikar was pointing, you know, there will be some rogue players who might want to take control of your entire application process and steer you in some university, which may not even be the right university for you. So, you know, I would again say, yeah, if there's, and I would again probably highlight that, you know, this session, this last hour and a half of the session that we've had, I think this is a great eye opener. And perhaps, you know, what you heard on this session could eliminate a lot of the heartburn you would face if you get wrong advice from third-party agencies. And I think the advice here is worth its weight multiple times in what you would pay to third parties. So my thanks to the alumni, Dr. Ravikanth, and everyone who came here and opened this question. We are quickly, there's too many questions. I'd like to wrap this up in 10 minutes. I'll just, there's a lot of questions. Let me just quickly throw some of the questions that I'd like, we've already answered some of them live, but let me just quickly throw some of these, anonymous attendee asking, you know, what is the required TOEFL score for good universities? I think this is answered. There's no hard and fast, but would the panelists want to venture a guess there, you know, what they think is a safe score in TOEFL to make it to the top tier universities?
Yes, I feel since I've taken TOEFL and that's what got me admission. I think 90 and 22 in each of the sections is considered safe. I think my panelists would agree with that. So yeah, that's
again, I'll say, you know, in any selection process, there's always noise. You know, there will be an upper limit, and sometimes someone above that upper limit doesn't make it into the university, and there's a lower limit, and sometimes someone below that makes it into a university. So it's not hard and fast. There are exceptions, but I think, you know, the number that Chaitanya said, that's a safe bet. You know, you get that score, you should be comfortable. Okay, next question that I have is just a sec. Do US universities, Sandeep has a lot of questions. So Sandeep, do US universities offer internships other than Ivy League universities? Are you talking about assistantships, Sandeep? I'm not sure what it is, but let me pose the question as is.
So I would take that question, because I'm not from Ivy League University, and I did my internship at AMD, so which is one of top companies for chip design. So I don't think you need any Ivy League university help to secure internships.
Oh, on that score, let me say, the US university ecosystem is so strongly integrated with industry that internships are an absolute norm. I don't think you can get a degree in the US universities without doing a lot of projects in, internships and relevant research at the undergrad and postgrad level that is cutting edge and, if nothing, at least very relevant to local industry and, economic and business scenarios. So that's one of the advantages. If there is one primary reason to pick US over other, higher education systems, I would say it is this. The close relevance that the US education and the university system have with the top recruiters and the top research, ecosystem around them, locally and or otherwise. All right. We have a question from. We have a lot of questions from Sandeep. I think what made the universities choose you. I think we've answered most of these. Sandeep, I can see you have a lot of questions. Reach out to us. We'll see. But you have an interesting question I'll throw out there. Sir, please bust some myths, such as some people tell that life in US is very difficult or very easy. Pay grade, job security, and it is very difficult for core people to develop to a high grade. I think that's a good general one to throw. Would the panelists like to respond to that one?
I can take that up. I'm currently in Baltimore. Yes, I would say financial aspect is very important, and life is not hard if I can put it into words. I think it's the fact that you have to do everything on your own. You do not have the comfort of falling back on your parent support immediately if things are not going according to your way. But that's what is expected of you from adulthood, right? You cannot just sit back and wait for someone to help you out. But life is not hard, and also it's really important that you have your financial things sorted out. A teaching assistantship really helps me with paying my rent and paying for my groceries and that sort of stuff, and that takes off a little bit of pressure. The way I applied for my teaching assistant, I told you, right, that SOP was a big key player for me. That's where I talked about when I had my interview. I talked about, hey, so scholarships are not a big thing in the department, but it's going to be of a big help if you could offer me a teaching assistantship. And that's how, like Srikar talked about, it's really hard to actually get an assistantship. So, but I got mine even before I arrived at the university. So do not believe if people tell you that it's really hard. That's not a thing. That's a myth.
So Ajita, a couple of quick questions for you. Aditya wanted to know, you talked about reaching out to a senior at Johns Hopkins. Was he
Yes.
from the engineering management stream?
Yes, she was.
She was. Okay.
Yeah. So she was actually, management skills are a big deal for my department for the program that I'm pursuing. So, and she was the editor of newsletter, and I worked on the team with her at my undergrad at GITAM University. So, so I reached out to her and I told her, and here's the very important thing that you need to remember: do not reach out to someone right before you're sending your application. Make a connection with them. If you've set your mind that I'm going to pursue my degree, then just reach out to them, build that connection, and then tell them that, this is how I could use your help with my SOP or my resume or something of that sort. Do not just straight off jump into, I need help with so-and-so thing. Can you help me out? I have 15 days of deadline. Build a relationship, build a connection. So she really helped me out with that.
Also, another question from Aditya. Srikar, this is for you. Is there a difference between research paper and journal? And if so, what is more important?
Oh, yeah, there is difference, but I don't think, I think what he means is there any difference between, is there anything in research paper? So research paper in general is divided into two major seriousness. So one is the journal paper, the other one is conference paper. So if you have the conference paper going on, then it is little less important than having a journal paper. But getting a journal paper is really difficult because it takes a lot of effort. It has a lot of scrutiny going on, and a lot of professors actually go through your research, and they would check for the plagiarism, they would check each and every line. They would check for that happens for the conference papers too, but the checking is little lesser in conference papers than in the journal papers. So if you have like one journal paper, it is equivalent, for me, it is equivalent to 5 different conference papers. So yeah, that is the difference.
Brilliant. What extracurriculars did you guys have which you think played a major role in getting into your desired university? Anyone wants to take that one?
Well, I was an active part in GISAC, GITAM University Science and Activity Center Club. That really stood out for me. And along with that, the NSS camps that I've been to as part of my undergrad. Yeah, those were the extracurriculars that my resume had. And I definitely think a social aspect of the social aspect of your resume, which I call the NSS or the NCC camps, they are valued really high in the United States. So yeah, those were mine.
I'll take one last question. I think this is from Archit. He says, sir, how should one prioritize his choice going for a master's degree? Whether it should be based on interest or one should opt for a STEM degree in order to give oneself more time to find a better job after degree. I think this has been answered. But I think that is where it started off with Chaitanya saying that, this is probably what you need to sort out first. But maybe I'll take your quick reaction in closing and then maybe wrap it up there. Right? And, we're near the end. So this is the last question. There are a few others. We'll compile this. I think some of the queries are, can they be in touch with you? If you might want to, tell them where they can reach out to you and what is the best forum to. I think they have all been very vocal in saying that, guys, now, if not already, right now is the time to go on LinkedIn and start building your profile. Maybe you can connect with them. I know that in the lead up to this, I'm already connected with all 3 of them over the last couple of days. We connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where a lot of deep conversations happen. I'll be able to track their careers going forward. They can track what's happening on GITAM because, or at least what we are doing, or specifically what I'm doing here at GITAM, because now we're connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very, very powerful networking tool, guys. That's my 2 bit on this. To the panel, your reactions on this one.
I'd like to add a point on the question you had, like, is it important for the STEM course? Talking about USA related to visas, it is actually, like for me, it was important to choose a STEM course because you would get like 3 attempts of H1B to get into a H1B visa lottery. But if you choose a non-STEM course, you just get only 1 H1B trial. It's a lottery, so if you don't get in the first attempt, you have to think about other options you would have. So in that scenario, STEM course would actually help. But if your passion is there in a non-STEM course, I have my friend who has done VLSI with me at GITAM, and then he took a non-STEM course in USA, and he still secured a job. But he had a bit of luck. He had his H1B visa picked in the first attempt itself. So doing a STEM course would actually help you to get visas too. But if your passion is there in a non-STEM course, yeah, just take where your passion is.
One last question. I know it's time, but one last question. Let me pose it. Ajita, you are pursuing your MS right now. Chaitanya, Srikar, you've both already done it. You're already working in the US. The question says, will there be campus placements after university? I know that's a very Indian thing to ask, but yeah. Are there jobs in the US after the MS? Are you worried, Ajita?
No, honestly, no. Because it was very clear right from the beginning that it's the degree that I'm choosing. It's not that I want to go to this country. It wasn't like I wanted to come to US. It was the program that I wanted to pursue. And MEM is a very strong course that is offered here at the universities in United States. I could have, if another country offered me the same, I would have pursued it back in India as well. So pick the degree, pick your passion. Do not look at, oh, I want to go to US and study here. I want to go to Paris.
But are there job opportunities at Johns Hopkins?
Absolutely. And it's the same.
And I would probably
alumni
say that,
network. Yeah, alumni network is very important. So that's what actually made me narrow down my university. So There's no thing as job like placements. It's a very Indian thing, as you mentioned. It's you start with your internships. You reach out to alumni who always offer you advice on how to apply to the companies, and that's how you build. That's why I keep stressing upon build your LinkedIn profile. You have to start with that, and that's how you secure a job. It's not like you're gonna sit for a company and they'll interview you at the university and then you'll get a job. That's a very Indian thing.
Let me take it to Chaitanya and Srikar on this one.
So yeah, some of the universities do have the campus fairs once a semester after your spring semester or the fall semester. And that's where it's usually for internships, but people do offer full-times as well. And these internships get converted to full-times as well. So that's the equivalent of a campus placement drive as in India. That's what I think. But most of it happens over LinkedIn and Indeed, and reaching out to your network, alumni network, whether it's your master's university network or the GITAM alumni network. So yeah, it's you got to apply to them. That's all.
I think that's about all the time we have today. My thanks to all the panelists for taking time out early on a Saturday morning, is it there in the US, and to Dr. Ravikanth sparing a Saturday evening, and to all our attendees who've been very patiently attending this. And I hope you had some great insights. I know I love this conversation, truly deep insights. I think everyone will gain from it. Sandeep repeatedly asking me where he can find you all on LinkedIn for sure. You can find me at the Directorate of External Relations. If you're in Vizag, we are in the Civil Bhavan, which is the Central Research Library, the old Civil Bhavan on the second floor. Dr. Ravikanth is housed a floor above us. In fact, you can see him in his office right now. And we are waiting to hear from all of you. And we hope you can make the most of it. Thanks again to all the student coordinators, Medasvi, Shashank, Anusha, Jay, Prasanna, Ayush, who made this happen. Thanks to all the attendees. Hope you gained a lot from this. Get started, guys. It's a long journey. The earlier you start, the better. And wish you all the very best. And thanks once again to all our alumni. Hope you guys, will be launching the portal soon. Hope to see you there. You're all in North America. We're trying to reactivate and try and see if, I don't know if you're all part of GANAM, which is a GITAM Alumni of North America chapter. If you're formally associated there, then we will be talking very soon. And there's plenty of things. We hope to see you back again and again and again. And on behalf of all the attendees, the Department of EECE, GITAM, DoER, GC, and the larger GITAM community, thanks to all of you for making this a wonderful session. It's been a great pleasure hosting you.